So what you're going to do, now what I'm doing is I'm making a cut the width of the timber on top, and then I'm going to make a cut the width of the timber on the bottom, basically. So see what I did right here, flush with the sides? If I take that off, that is the same of the width as the timber on top. I'm going to line that up nice and clean. Move this thing around, make sure it's nice and good. And I'm going to do the same thing with the timber on top. You don't have to get a protractor out and do this. Smaller is better, because then you can always take more wood off. If you make this slot in here too big, it might not necessarily fit nice and tight inside. Does that kind of make sense? Won't fit. You don't want it sliding around left to right or side to side. Yeah, we trim this one up a little bit. It's a little bit off. No worries, we can fix it. All I'm doing is making a mark. Okay. Now, I'm going to hit this one first. The bigger the circumference, the diameter of the wood you have, the more wood you have to work with on this. Okay? I'm seeing where my cut is. Yeah, I'll leave that on there for now. Seeing about where my cut is. Make it as vertical as you can. You'll see me bad today. Take as much wood as you can off. If you have really big pieces, after you've gotten a little bit off, okay, so you basically see where I'm going with this one now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, watch this. Now I flipped it over and I'm looking at both sides, and I want to draw a relatively straight line with my cuts. Keep tapping it. Like yay. Now, you're going to get to a certain point where it's starting to work, but you're having a really hard time getting a bite with your bit. That makes sense? You can either stand this thing up vertical and put it on a tree like you're working on a bow stave, or you can do what you're doing like yay. hewing hatchet has got a little recess for your fingers, so you can adjust the bevel. And a hewing hatchet is flat. There's no arc to it. There's no curve to the bit at all. I want to be mindful when I get towards the end, because I don't want to knock that off and I don't want to knock that off like that. So, you got the basic idea what you're doing, right? So, I'm gonna let you finish this so you can get a feel for it. Try both hatchets. Does that basically make sense?
Yeah.
Again, if you have more, you put them next to each other. Between each one of these is where you would try to pitch that log. I'd put another log between these two on my side, then I'd put one. Highest one is gonna go right in the middle. You put 2 more logs on the sides, you just keep stacking them up so they get higher in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then give your supports on the outside. You can do the same thing. You put 1, 2, 3 and put 1 so it raises it up. The far end is only gonna be 1. Is only gonna be 1 because you want it to shed water or snow or whatever.
Yeah, you don't want it to get stuck in there like a bowl.
Yeah, you don't wanna make a bowl, you don't wanna make a concavity. So when you got the roof done like this, does that basically make sense so far? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna put your tarp. Now your tarp is definitely gonna be bigger than this, right? You've sanded your edges down so they're not sharp. Take your Swiss Army knife, you can take your hatchet and just round it. So it's a knob, it's like the handle on a broom, it's rounded. You're gonna pull your tarp over the sides relatively tight, and your tarp is gonna have attachment points, got the grommets in it, and just tie the grommets somewhere inside your tarp, or I'm sorry, inside your shelter. If you have a 12 by 12 shelter and you have a 16 by 16 tarp, you're gonna get probably 3 feet on each side. Now, it's gonna change up the dimensions a little bit because it's gonna be a little higher on the roof, 2 to 3, 3 and change, something on each side. So that shelter itself is gonna be whatever size it is. You're gonna pull the tarp down and just attach it at any point you can. So you're gonna give yourself essentially some waterproofing between 2 and 3 feet down on each side. If you got a 20 by 20 foot tarp, obviously you're gonna be able to go down a little bit further. Does that basically make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
You're basically just covering your shelter with your tarp and attaching it everywhere you can. The tighter it is, the easier it's gonna shed water.
What about the cooking situation? How about the fire inside?
Well, if you're wanting a raging bonfire, I probably wouldn't put it inside. I'd probably have a fire pit out here that you can sit around, and if it's nice outside and you can cook. In here, you're gonna want your roof, I mean, obviously, you got a fire on the ground, your shelter's this high, and it's a hot fire, it's gonna burn something. You want your roof to be, I would say, at least high enough for you to stand up in it, so I'd probably make yours 6.5. Yay, a foot, at least a foot taller than you. If this is the top of your roof, you don't want your head to be at that. You want your head to be a foot below that, a foot below this, so you're not running into it, so you can hang jackets or anything else that you want, pots and pans or gear, or put your headlamp or your pack and stuff like that. I would probably put my fire somewhere in the middle-ish, and this will be primarily for cooking when it's wet, or to warm you up, where you're gonna make your rock pile stove in it. Remember, you just make a big pile of rocks, basically, and make your fire right on the inside. Big rocks, medium rocks, little rocks, so embers don't jump out, and it heats it up. Make sure you get your rocks from high and not low, so there's less chance that they're gonna blow up. Is that basically making sense?
Yeah.
What you can do in the corners is, if you get crazy about this, and or you find some 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x10s, or if you decide you want to get a piece of wood, split it, yay long, hew the sides down, make some shelves. Just stick some shelves in between the pieces of lumber. Stick some shelves so you have places to put stuff, so you can build up instead of everything kind of clogging the ground up, so you can build up. You can pretty much visualize that, can't you? Okay, that would be my suggestion for your shelter. Now the door, Again, you want to make sure that whatever direction the door is opening is the direction that wind and rain are going past. You don't want to be coming in it. You want them to be, the wind and rain to be going away from your door. So I would do my door on this shelter right here or right here, probably right here. And what you would do on this one, you're going to dig a hole a little bit wider than your shoulders, meaning just a little bit wider than your shoulders. You're going to dig a hole, I'd say probably a good 2 feet. Put your post down in the ground, fill it in with rocks, then fill it in with dirt so it's relatively sturdy. And you're going to want your post to come up right to the top of your shelter. You're going to secure it. Whatever the span is from your door frame to the side, plus 4 or 5 inches, just like you're doing your joints right now. You're doing your saddle joints. Whatever the span is, you're going to cut it that long. So you're essentially going to knock off right from the inside of my foot and off. That's all going to get discarded for stuff we can do later. If this is where my door frame is right here, and let's say this is my doorpost right here, what you're essentially going to do is this timber right here is going to butt up against it. And as you put more timbers in, they're going to butt up against this. If you want to get crazy and get a piece yay big, put a saddle in it, and put it between your timbers, you totally can. So you'd be doing the same thing you're doing on your corners. It's just not going to be length. It's going to be, that long, where you cut a saddle, and that goes in between your timbers to raise it up. Can you kind of visualize that?
Yeah.
When you're done with that,
So it would come out a little bit inside?
yeah, just a little bit.
Just a
little bit. And you're basically doing that to keep your spacing even
Yeah.
as your timbers walk up and they make your wall, they make your front wall. You're going to take 2 more posts that are going to be the height of your roof plus about 2 feet. You're going to dig a hole on the inside. This is your door frame right here. A couple inches from your door frame, enough that you're not going to get into the hole you made for the post that's making the door frame. You're going to sink one in on the inside, sink one in on the outside, and they're going to hold your timbers that are making your wall in place. Your 2 timbers that are right here, you're going to lash them together right at the roof, into the roof, so it makes a solid door frame. Can you kind of visualize that?
Yeah.
So you got your door frame here. If you want to enclose your door frame, if your tarp comes down enough, you can go with that. If you want to make a door, you're going to do these same joints, the size of your door, lash them together real tight, then as creative as you can be with that, you can wind it with vines. You can get crazy, and you can find some willow or some other real bendable trees and make a basket, kind of a basket frame inside of it, intersperse sticks in it, something like that, to give you a little bit of structure and integrity to your door frame. You can tie it so you can push it in and out. You can make it like a manhole cover, or you pick it up and move it when you get out. Whatever you want to do. Cut down on a little bit of wind, or if it does happen to rain like that, it'll help you out. If you have a 14 by 14 shelter, you got a 20 by 20 tarp, you'll probably be able to pull that door pretty much all the way to the bottom. You can put some weights on that side of the tarp so it doesn't flap. Get some rocks or a stick like the one you got tied at the bottom so it keeps it from flapping. Can you kind of visualize that? Mm-hmm. Is that kind of making sense? So that would be my simplest suggestion. That would be my simplest suggestion. There are a ton of other things